Thank you so much for that introduction, Paul. Thank you, David, and members of the Potter County Historical Society for organizing this. Thank you to all of you for attending this dedication. Thank you, Clarissa, for that wonderful rendition. It was really a beautiful way to start this program here. I will try to keep my words relatively brief. I occasionally struggle at doing that, especially when I find the subject matter to be so important. It's quite the coincidence, bordering on a blessing, that I can be with you here today. As Paul mentioned, I work in Iowa. I followed the job to where it would have me, and I am a historian of slavery in the American North by training. My first book is going to be on the history of slavery here in Pennsylvania. But I happened to be in town for a meeting of the Pennsylvania Historical Association down in York. And so when I received the call 2 weeks ago, letting me know that this was going to be happening, I could not believe my good fortune and said, of course, I will come up on Saturday to be with you all in doing this important thing. I will not spend too much time on Aslan Peters' history, because you can read about that if you make your way over to the Potter County Historical Society, where they have a copy of the journal article for anyone who would like to read it. But I will try to reflect on what I think it means and why we are gathered here on this blustery, if thankfully dry, afternoon. So I'm not a member of your community, but I am grateful that you have invited me to be a part of it. I'm from a not too similar community up in Western New York, but one that has a similar enough history, if you believe it or not. I'm from a suburb of Rochester, New York, called Pittsford. And the founder of Pittsford, the earliest town supervisor, was a man named Caleb Hopkins. He has a homestead that's been preserved near one of the town's two middle schools and a park in his honor next to the other of the town's two middle schools. And when he relocated from Vermont to Western New York in the 18 teens, he decided to name the town that he was helping to organize after his hometown of Pittsford, Vermont, Pittsford, New York. And while he was there, because it was legal, he purchased a 13-year-old technically free but bound child named Titus Lord, who was to serve him until his late 20s under New York's system of gradual abolition. And so you have this town founder who was implicated in the slow death of slavery in the American North. And I did not learn that story of my hometown until I was doing this research on this hometown. So different community, similar history of slavery being at the core of the earliest stories that we tell ourselves, and yet not a part of the popular consciousness of that history. So thank you for inviting me into your community. I will say there are some familiar aspects, such as all of the Bills flags driving down Route 6. Go Bills. So I want to talk a bit about symbols. Symbols like flags, symbols like the things we use to adorn our landscapes and to make sense of our present and the past. A headstone in many ways cannot be reduced to just a symbol, but is an important one. The headstone behind us is not original to 1880. It was erected in the 1950s by Daughters of the American Colonists, who were interested in Aslan Peters and his history. I do not believe they intended to denigrate. I do not believe they intended to belittle. I believe that they were trying to remember Aslan Peters the best that they knew how in the early 1950s. Certainly, they were one of a handful of folks who were paying attention to who he was and what they believed he meant to the earliest history of Potter County. As I was driving up here from Coudersport, just a couple of miles south of Route 6, I managed to pass 2 Confederate flags, another kind of symbol, as much of the present as the past. I think it's important to realize that the symbols we use to adorn our lands in the present are choices that we get to make about the kind of community we hope to be, that we wish to be. We can reference the past in order to try to make sense of the present and to be a symbol of hope for the future. Symbols do not need to change, but they can. And so I'm so taken by the fact that we gather here today to make a choice. No one is compelling us to be here. This is not an order from on high. This is not erasing the past. This is electing to tell a slightly different story about what it means. Peters did not have a choice about coming here, but he did have the choice to stay. And stay he did, for 60 years. And so he died, the longest lived member of Potter County's earliest history, not as a colored slave, but as one of the earliest pioneer settlers of this community. How wonderful is that we have the choice to tell that story, to prop up that symbol, to recognize that part of your community's history. So thank you for having me, and thank you for caring about the past and the stories that we tell about it.